Okay, hi everyone out there. We're here tonight because we're going to be talking about lessons that we implemented after going to the Hawaii GAFE Summit. So exciting times. I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves, and I got barking dogs in the background. My name is Rachel Armstrong. I'm a tech coordinator at Daniel K. Inouye Elementary School, previously known as Halikula Elementary. And then if you guys could just go down the row, starting with maybe Christy.
Hi, my name is Christy Kaitoku. I'm also a tech coordinator at Lelehua High School.
I'm Shelby Gotham. I'm also a teacher at Halikula Elementary, now to be known as Daniel K. Inouye Elementary. I teach first grade, and I'm going to be teaching third grade next year.
I'm Tori. I teach at Milani Middle School, and I am a 7th grade math teacher.
Whoa. Okay, so we got a good group of people going here. I'm going to go ahead and screen share so that I can get my face off the screen and show you the lesson. So here we go. You guys see my screen now? Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let me just check that I'm off. Okay. When we went to the GAF Summit, one of the ones that I guess that resonated with me the most was Holly Clark's session on the right question. And I felt like it was perfect timing for what we're doing at our school because we're trying to go more project-based learning. So basically, everything that she talked about in this presentation kind of came from this book, Make Just One Change, Teach Students to Ask Their Own Questions. So what I wanted to do was use the strategy she taught in this session with our elementary students and see how it worked out. So I'm going to go ahead and show kind of what I did. But the basics of it is that the question, stop me by the way if you have any questions as I'm going because I tend to just ramble. But the question formulation technique is basically that either the student or the teacher designs a question focus, and then the students produce all the questions they can on that focused topic, kind of like a brainstorming, a question storm, if you will. And then they take the questions that they brainstorm and they work with those to analyze them a little bit more to make them either close-ended or open-ended, depending on what they were to begin with, just to modify the questions and make them a little better. Next, they look at prioritizing their questions, and they take their questions and decide what their next steps will be, and then they reflect. So basically, it's a whole question research cycle that is putting all the power in the students' hands, which I really liked that. So I'm just going to go to the lesson piece. And I think that it's better to see it from the student perspective, but I'll be putting this on the GEG community. But basically, what I had the students do is in a PowerPoint. Sorry, maybe it's scrolling. You guys see this Google slideshow?
Yeah.
Guys?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just checking. Okay, so what I did was basically I totally copycatted and just copied Holly Clark's presentation and just modified it. So students in 5th grade were looking at, the 5th grade team decided that they were going to have the students break into social issues based off what they're interested in. So I went to the room with the teacher who was kind of tackling animal issues. And the students had already gotten two classes where they looked at what are some animal issues out in the world. And then basically what I did was I had them go through the question formulation technique on a subtopic. So they had to pick one of these, factory farming, animal experimentation, one of these subtopics right here. And then they went through the whole entire question storm. And the neat thing I like is when you have them question storm, there's 4 rules, and I'm trying to talk about this real quick, but there's 4 rules that they have to follow, and that's they ask as many questions as they can, they don't stop to judge, discuss, edit, or answer any of the questions, and that they write down every question exactly as it was stated, and that they change any statement into a question. So they use these 4 rules as they question storm. And what I had the students do was I asked them what would be hard about this for them. So even before they begin asking all their questions, they're using metacognition because they're looking at their own thinking and what they think might be challenging about these 4 rules. So that was pretty cool. They took 5 minutes to gather their questions as a group. And then they took any questions that were open-ended questions and they turned them into closed-ended questions. And any questions that were closed-ended and changed them into open-ended. And again, this is basically having them look at, just like with a piece of writing, we wouldn't expect the first student a question asked to be the best question. So they have to edit it. So this is basically looking at editing our questions so that we are better questioners first off and also are getting better answers. But because they were fifth graders, I actually kind of walked them through a sample of what open and closed were. And then from there, they changed their questions. And what I found is we had to have some mini lessons here because some of the questions they came up with weren't the most awesome questions right away, obviously, but they're not used to doing this in class, so it was a little bit difficult. But anyway, so that was the first session, and when we came back the next time, we prioritized questions. So where I had them using GAFE stuff, and I'm going really fast, I know, because it's a lot. Please stop me if you need to. But basically, is the groups at first, I thought because I didn't want to slow down their question brainstorming process, I decided to have them do it on chart paper at first. And so in groups, they wrote down all their questions on chart paper, and then later they transferred it to this Google Doc. So basically, this is all the questions they asked. This group asked about pet abandonment. And you can see every single question they brainstormed in blue at first. And then after we did some lessons, a little bit, a mini lesson on making our questions a little better, they put their new questions or their edited questions in green. And then they came back, and I asked them to pick the questions that were the most important to them. And so they prioritized with their initials and numbers 1 through 3 what was most important to them. And then even though I didn't do this part of the lessons, I kind of did that piece, and then I had to step out because I was doing stop motion with another class. The teacher then had them take their first priority questions, they did some research, and from that they come up with their new questions. And so this document right here kind of shows the research cycle they were going through. Now let me stop screen share. And I'm trying to rush because my kids, of course, are talking when it was my turn to share. So any old hoot. It was pretty cool. It turned out pretty nicely. I think the kids weren't really used to what I was asking them to do because typically the teacher is the one that comes up with all the questions and not the students. So I thought I really liked it because I felt like as teachers sometimes we want kids to ask better questions, but we don't know how to get them to do so. So this gave me a process to walk them through, and it's a research-based process that comes from the Right Question Institute. So I really enjoyed it because at GAFE this year, instead of just doing Google Tools, it taught me a new teaching instructional strategy. So I enjoyed it. And that's basically what I did. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for me about the process, or I know I was sharing very fast. I'm sorry, my dogs were whining and the kids were asking questions. So that's the life of a mother and dog owner, I guess. But anyways. So do you guys have any questions for me, or?
No, that was very good. I was wondering how you might use that strategy with lower elementary, because their questions tend to be pretty straightforward. What is this? What is this? And there's only usually 1 or 2 answers to it. But trying to teach them to ask more open-ended questions, how would you go about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think with the younger kids, it definitely we want it to start with what is, because if you can't define something, then sometimes you can't go really further. But the question storm piece itself, I think, lends to even the fantastical type questions we can give validity to. For instance, even the 5th graders couldn't ask questions, to be honest, the type questions I would expect from them at this point. And I think it's because, again, if you don't get the practice of editing your questions or asking good questions, you will never get there. So I think for the younger ones, I would have them not necessarily do on chart paper, but even like orally record their questions. And it could start with the teacher modeling it. So the teacher is modeling, she says, well, we're going to ask what are animal issues, or how can I make a difference in the world? And then from there, the teacher may look that up with them. They find out a little bit of information, and then she sees if they have new questions. But for the little ones, I think I would focus on the what, when, where, how, why questions, and the teacher doing a lot of modeling of it. and maybe more whole class inquiry.
Okay, thank you.
I went to that session too, and I really liked it. I just haven't yet tried it out, so it's really cool that you put it to use and you really liked it too. So it encourages me to try it eventually with my students.
Oh, thanks. Shucks, thanks. No, honestly, it was pretty much a hot mess, and the stuff that like it worked out well. It was still a good process, but I think that because it was the first time, like I said, that they've gone through the process, um, it really showed. It was actually an eye-opening experience for the teacher and myself. It really shows kind of the skills that our students are lacking. And you know, we have this assumption, I think, sometimes, and I've done it myself, where we think that kids can research or do some of these things um, on their own, maybe even. Like I know with science fair, sometimes we send off kids, and I've been guilty of this myself, where we say, okay, go do the research at home. Research itself is an intense skill. That's not even so. This was just one piece of like project-based learning, learning to ask good questions. Um, but to become better researchers, we have to know what questions to ask. So I thought it's a really neat. I actually ended up reading the book because I was interested to learn more, and the book is really good because it talks about the types of thinking that students have to do this processing, and the type of thinking we want out of our students. Because to ask a lot of questions, they're thinking divergently. They're thinking of all the possibilities, and then when they think about the rules or they reflect on their own learning, they're having metacognition. And then when they're diving into to answer the questions that are most important to them, then they're converging. So they're having convergent thinking, and we want all three types of things going on with our students. So it was a good experience. I will definitely say the student artifacts that are on my portfolio, you know, they're what they are. You know, you can't change that. I think it definitely shows that we have a long way to go with teaching kids to actually use the research cycle. So it's valid data, I guess. So I don't know who wants to share next. I feel like I've talked a lot. Christy wants to go then?
Sure. Let me say. Choose what you'd like to share. Okay, wait, I don't think that's the screen. I think you guys are looking at my email. Entire screen. Okay. Okay, this is the screen you guys are looking at, right?
Kaitoku.
Okay. Okay, so I'm a tech coordinator, so I'm not in the classroom a lot, but I do team teach with a lot of teachers. So a lot of the work I do is just integrating technology, I guess, into the teacher's curriculum. So it's just whenever teachers like come up to me personally, send me an email, say, hey, I want to do this with my class, can you help me? So for this particular teacher, I work with him every year, so it's a history class. And it's kind of like a Who Am I project. So what he does is he has his students do a research paper on a historical figure. So their final product is actually a written essay along with a presentation, along with an oral presentation. So it's kind of like a big unit for them. So what they do is they come to the library, they do the research, they write a paper, they do a presentation, and then they present it orally. So where I come in is I help them prepare either a Google presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, or a Prezi presentation, or whatever kind of presentation that they want to present. So for his class, I kind of push them towards Google. So that's kind of where I came in. So this is kind of what he wants them to do. So you guys can just take a quick, he has requirements for their essay and requirements for Google presentation. So he kind of has like minimum of 15 slides. He has pictures that they have to do, a cover slide, informational slides, works cited, and so on and so on. So what I do is I give a presentation to his classes, and I kind of just stress. So our kids, I mean, a lot of them, because we're at the high school level, they already know how to do PowerPoint or Google. they're pretty, I would say, efficient at using it. But what they don't know is, I guess, how to, well, I don't know if you can say there's a correct way to make a presentation, but I guess they could use better skills at making a presentation. So I kind of emphasize that they shouldn't put like paragraphs on a presentation slide. So when I tell them, okay, you should use bullet points, and their presentation should actually be a presentation tool to guide them as they do their oral presentation. So that's where we're kind of stressing to the kids that, hey, you're making a tool to help you do your presentation. It's not something that you just stare at and you read off of it. So that's where we're kind of coming at them. And so the student samples, we're stressing to them also that, so we have some old school teachers at our school that basically still use an overhead projector. So we're telling them that the difference between the technology that they have and those teachers that they still have that use an overhead projector, right? They just kind of slap it on there and they lecture off of it. We're telling them that PowerPoint, Prezi, Google Slides, the difference between this and that are those neat things that you can do, which is transitions, animations, and all those unique things that make this technology different. So I kind of emphasize that you can't just make words and pictures and that's it. You have to add those little extras, and that's what makes it different. So those are the things that I stress. So I stress that, I stress to use bullets, I stress to kind of make it, I guess, kind of not simplistic, but like stress to them that they shouldn't change the color on every single slide. They should use a background that's appropriate to what they're doing. They should use like a decent sized font. So just like, you know, things to make their PowerPoint presentation, I don't know what the word is, I guess effective, an effective presentation. So their student samples came out, I would say it came out pretty well. So they come, they do the research, I kind of teach them how to do it, how to use it, and then I guess we can just present one. And they kind of just go through it. And I'm not going to show you guys the whole thing, but that's the gist of it. And then he has a rubric that they follow. So at the end of their everything, I normally jump in with them or with that teacher, and I listen to their presentations and I help him grade their presentations. So I get to hear it and see it, their final product, to see how well they did. And that's always a neat neat thing to see. So you have those students that really excel in it, and then you have those students that, of course, just do the bare minimum just to get by, and it's just very plain and very dull. But I guess at our high school level, I think a lot of the kids actually, I mean, I know this is a Google Google thing, but a lot of the kids are starting to use Prezi a lot more. But I think that's because it allows you to do a little more. But I like to use Google, and the kids are starting to use Google, and I guess a lot for the collaboration purposes too. But that's basically what I did for mine.
Christy, I want to just say your Google Google site looks way better than mine. Shameful.
You know why? Because no,
I used the template.
no, because I used Weebly.
Oh, that is a...
No, yeah, I emailed, I don't know her name, Mary Beth, and I asked her if we had to use Google Sites, and she told me no.
Yeah, some of them, I mean, you can make a Google site fancy, but it takes a little more work. But
Yeah, she said as long as we use a platform that's public, I can use whatever I want. So I was like, all right, because I hate Google Sites. Like, I'm sorry, I know this is like a live stream, but it's just It's horrible. Out of all their apps, like that is the worst one. It's like it's
It's
crazy.
hard. It's difficult.
It's a little more difficult than the others, but I do want to point out, like, I really like that you're working that with the kids, because I think, and that's more what Common Core is getting at. I think our kids need to be able to present well and present visually more than they do with even with bullets or words. Like a student being able to stand up in front of an audience and just speak based off pictures, that would be amazing to me.
Yeah.
That makes good speakers, and I think that's important. I think kids aren't getting enough practice being good speakers, and definitely we want to look at using visuals more. So, yeah, that's cool that you're working with them on that.
A lot of them can make good Google Slides or presentations, but they have a hard time speaking orally. So, I mean, they're doing good though.
That's the next step. Next step. Okay, so who wanted to go next?
I can go next.
Perfect.
Kind of goes off of what you guys were talking about. Let's see. Okay, my lesson is actually still in progress because it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do, because all the session breakouts that I went to actually were for teachers except for Google searching and the geo tools. And so I was like, what am I going to do? All the breakouts I went to were tools for teachers. I have no lesson to give to the kids for that. So let me screen share. Okay. All right. So I ended up reviewing my notes and figuring out what I wanted to do, and I went to a breakout called Stop Searching, Start Finding. And it was basically using Google in the most efficient way possible for searching. My kids don't have a lot of experience using Google for searching at all. So actually getting them onto just this site here, I had to ask them, what is it? Do you know what it is? Some of them said that it was a way to find YouTube videos. Some of them said, oh, it's Google. That's what my parents use. But for what? They had no idea. And so I kind of had to do a little background information on what the internet was exactly and what Google was as a tool, which was very interesting. And so what I ended up doing with them was Google searching for images with my kids. We did it as a whole class. And what we have been learning about recently were needs and wants in goods and services. And so we just started on one slide, one blank slide that said needs, and they gave me what they knew needs were: food, water, shelter, and clothes. And I said, well, why don't we use the Google tool to find images to add to our page, to our slide? And they were very excited about that. And when I showed them that you could click on images and search for images here, they were blown away. They thought it was the most amazing thing. They're 7-year-olds, and they could look for images just by typing in a word. So they were giving me words to type in. And I initially typed in food, and we ended up with things like burgers and hot dogs and things like that. And so this is where adding extra words like healthy food, nutritious food, that kind of thing to their search bar helped them find the images that they really wanted to use. And of course they chose the one that was a rainbow. And we clicked and dragged it in here. And my co-teacher was exclaiming how amazed she was that we could just click and drag a picture straight into a slideshow. And the kids weren't really amazed by that. But when I told them, well, if you were researching for pictures from a book, from a library book, could you just cut out a picture and glue it into your poster or your book, your slideshow? And half of them said yes. And then I had to say, wait a second, can you cut out pictures from your library book? And they went, no, no, no. Okay, so when we're just clicking and dragging, just to share some information like this, do you think that's a good use of technology? And they were they started having a discussion about it, which was really nice. And we continued looking for images. Like we typed in the word water and we came up with this, but they didn't really like these pictures, so I said, what kind of water are you looking for? And one of the kids said drinkable water, so we typed in drinkable water and we got a variety of pictures, including people drinking from water bottles, so that was interesting. But they chose this image. And they searched for clothes, and they had to choose a picture together. There's my sweetheart. Same with shelter. Now the next slide that we're going to be working on is wants. Things that they want. And in our previous lessons on needs and wants, they weren't able to really express everything that they wanted. So I let them brainstorm search words that they wanted to put into Google Images for things that they'd like to add to this slide. We might need to add more slides to this. And they sent them to their desks and had them brainstorm ideas. And each group had a discussion on whether if we typed in phone as a want, would that come up with the picture that you wanted? What kind of phone? And she said cell phone, so she added the word cell here. She wants nail polish, a dog and a cat, money, friends. This little girl started with chocolate, candy, Nerf guns, and junk food in general. So she was coming off of the candy and chocolate, and her group was talking to her about, well, that sounds like you like junk food, so she wrote down junk food. This little boy initially only wrote toys, and I said, well, is that going to bring up the image that you're thinking of right now? What kind of images are you imagining to add to our group slideshow? And he went, oh, toy dinosaurs. So he was able to narrow down his search a little bit better. Let's see. So tomorrow, the idea is that we will go back into Google Images on their own, or maybe with a partner, and I'll have the slideshow already open, and they can click and drag the images that they choose into our slideshow together. It's really, really, really basic. Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so it's a really, really basic lesson on just using Google to search for things. And then our presentation is obviously very, very basic too. But since the kids don't have a lot of experience with it, I think having this base knowledge of being able to use Google to find what they want and to add images and things like that onto something they want to share with other people will be important even as soon as next year in second grade, when they're going to be doing a lot more presentations, a lot more collaborative work on. And that's kind of it for now.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one with the dogs. So Shelby, you're gonna lead like a PD session for the teachers at school on keyword searches. I just want to
No, the little kids need it. The adults can figure it out, right?
They say, like, are you a little worried? Because one time with the 5th grade, when I was teaching 5th grade still, I had them looking up for like visual vocabulary, and sometimes I'm a little worried what pops up.
Yeah, I'm going to have them just choose one thing from their brainstorm list per kid, and I'm going to have to approve it before they type it in, so I might like type it in my computer first just to check, because I did type in later on in the presentation, I want to look up, I think it was services, like goods and services, and I typed in the word services into the image. box just to see what would happen. And like one of the top pictures was a big, fat, half-naked guy in a tiny little car. And I said, how am I in, am I in safe search or not? And I was, and I just like, okay, we're gonna have to adjust the words when we search. I have to change it to something else. I was just like a little bit. The kids will kind of go crazy if they see something like that. It's not technically inappropriate. I mean, he's just shirtless in a little car, but it's yeah, a little concerning. So I'm going to try to have them narrow it down to just one that they want to look at, and I will do a quick search first, and then I'll let them do it on their own. So cross your fingers, nothing inappropriate comes up.
Good luck.
Please don't. Please don't. Isn't there I thought there was some search engine now that they came out with for kids, but I can't remember the.
Kid images?
I can't remember. Google just put out. Does anyone else know that put out some search engine specifically for kids? Maybe they could do images in that too. I don't know. I have to think about it. I'll find it and let you know later.
Okay. Yeah, I think I looked it up, but I can't remember what it's called either.
Okay, I guess I'll go. How do I do this? Share.
Tori, are you looking for the screen share button?
Yeah.
If it disappeared, go over to the left of your window, and then it should pop up. It's the green one with the arrow. Yeah, we see it. I see your screen.
Okay, so I use Google Slides and Google Classroom. So I have 5 periods that I teach the same class. So each class has their own Google Classroom. So I just shared this or created this assignment, and each class got this slideshow. So since I teach math, I focus on the mathematical practice standards. So the first one is make sense of the problem and persevere in solving it. And then MP4 is model with mathematics. So I basically gave them a problem, which is this mangoes problem. You can read it. And their point was it's a little more difficult problem, kind of like a brain teaser, I guess you can say. And so their job was to understand the problem, persevere when solving it when it gets difficult, and then they're using Google Slides to show their work. As a math teacher, I guess I kind of sometimes struggle with that. How do I use Google Apps for education in my math classroom for my students to show their work, because it's not always the easiest tool, but I felt this problem would kind of help me do it since it kind of had to do with fractions. And yeah, they could show their work using the shapes or even using drawings or inserting images. So each class got their own slide. So this is my core 1, and then each group, they got into groups of 3, and they had to duplicate or create their own slide and show their work of how they solved this problem. The downside to giving the whole class the same slide and not allowing them to create a copy was that in just one of my classes, some students were kind of editing my slides and editing other students' slides, even though I kind of made it known you need to not do that. I can go back and look at all the revisions. That was just the only downside, but and what else? And so I guess another downside is that they can kind of look at other people's work and use their work to make their own work, kind of I guess copying their classmates' work, so then you don't really know if they're doing it on their own. But I really like the end products of it all, what they were able to create, because a lot of it is, for the most part, it looks the same, but some actually were different in my other core classes. And then my plan was to have them present their slide. I was able to do it in one class, but in the other classes, I wasn't really able to get it because took longer to do, to show their work. And then some of them were really focused on making their slide really pretty and extravagant and making it really colorful, which I didn't care about at the time. I just like really cared about the math. So after I clarified that, they were more focused, but they were just putting images, making their background really nice. And next time I just need to tell them that from the beginning, if you're done solving the problem, then you can go back and make it nice, but that's not our priority at the moment. But yeah, that's about it. Oh,
Um, wow, I sounded I'm echoing now. Tori, I also found when I was teaching the blended learning that math is almost seems like the hardest to use GAFE.
yeah, I struggle all the time. So like doing these classes, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Okay, did anyone have anything else they wanted to share tonight with the world at large, or are we feeling good?
But
Okay, we're good. So I'm gonna stop the broadcast. If you ladies could hold on for 1 second afterward. But thanks for everyone out there joining us. Hopefully you got some new ideas on how to use GAFE in the classroom. All right, have a good night.